G'day folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome to our humble home. Now we know this isn't the bush once again like it normally is, or like it should be, to be honest, but this is kind of us branching out a little bit into the world of how-to videos and trying to bring you something that's actually going to help you out in your crystal hunting journey going forward and give you a bit of education. So whether you've been hunting crystals for years or whether you've just sort of started out and you're starting to find a few, chances are you've encountered some stones coated in a stubborn brownish substance. Like this. That refuses to budge without anything short of a metal tool. And if it's like this, or even like this, just that brownish smear across the surface, or sometimes it can be a bit of rainbow colour to it, or but any variation of, even stuff like this, it's probably iron oxide. Now this could be actually a bit of a mix of iron oxide and stone, but if it's like this, it's likely iron oxide. So today we're going to be using oxalic acid to try and remove those iron oxides and get these crystals shining and looking their absolute best. Now iron oxides come in many different sort of forms, but the one you're probably most familiar with is your Land Cruiser's worst nightmare, rust. Now there's a couple of others that are, you're probably familiar with, like hematite, magnetite and so on, but they're basically all just minerals with sort of varied amounts of iron and oxygen to make them up. The element we're targeting today though is the iron. Enter the oxalic acid, the absolute mortal enemy of iron oxide, because when this stuff comes into contact with iron oxide, a chemical reaction called a double displacement reaction occurs. No worry, I don't really know what that is either, but it basically changes the iron oxide into iron oxalate, which is a water-soluble salt. Yes, I definitely read that from a piece of paper. The iron dissolves into the water and basically washes away, leaving us with bright and shiny crystals. Now, having said all that, you do have to be careful when you're using this stuff. Like, it's not that harmful to anything that's not iron, or not that corrosive essentially, but it's still pretty nasty stuff, so you want to make sure you take all the sort of necessary precautions to protect yourself and your stuff, or just get someone else to do it so you don't have to. Always make sure you wear a pair of gloves at the least when you handle this stuff, and if any spills do happen, make sure you wash it off as quick as you can, even just with plain water, because a stray drop of this stuff left unchecked on a piece of steel is definitely enough to do damage over the course of a few days, and by the time you realize it, it's already too late, so be a bit careful. Also, you may have noticed that we're doing all of this outside, and that's because the gases that are produced by this soon-to-be steaming pot of goo are really harmful. They're noxious, they irritate your airways. It's just seriously bad stuff. Trust me, it's not the sort of shit you want to be breathing in, so make sure you do this outside somewhere, like not even in a room with a window open, not even in your shed. You really want to be outside for this one. Now, we've tried a few different ways of getting this stuff to work, but definitely the best way we've found to do it is in a slow cooker or a crock pot like this one. I think it'd be about a 5-litre slow cooker, thereabouts. And the reason being is that oxalic acid comes in a powder form most of the time, just like this one, and it really doesn't like dissolving in anything other than hot water. It won't dissolve at all, let alone really work. So we use the crock pot because it just works on a nice gentle low heat, helps it dissolve, and seems to do the job really well. Now we've tried just trying it in cold water, we've tried sitting it in a bucket and sitting it in a heat mat. We've even tried another suggestion, which is put it outside under the sun, but neither of them work. Now for the easy bit, we've got everything we need. We've got crystals, crock pot, water, bicarb soda. Bicarb soda comes into play a bit later on, but we'll get to that. And we'll just start off by half filling that crock pot. Well, yeah, about halfway with cold water. Now it's important to use cold water and cold rocks to start off with, just so as you can bring everything up to temperature together at the same time, and that's going to basically stop, or well, at least prevent as much fracturing and cracking of the rocks from occurring, because if you go too fast, like if you were to drop a cold rock into hot water, it's likely going to break. Especially if those rocks have come from a primary source deep sort of within the earth. That basically means that those rocks have never been exposed to the elements before, or the hot and cold of daytime temperatures and all that sort of stuff. So that's the main, process which makes for rock smallification. So start off cold, bring everything up to temperature evenly, and that's going to reduce the risk of any breakages and disastrous consequences and all that sort of stuff. And same goes for when it's all said and done. You basically, once you switch it off, let it all cool down together, and once it's cool, you can take your rocks out. Once your water's in, add your acid to your pot and give it a bit of a stir just in the cold water once it's there. Now, as for how much to use, we use 200 grams of this stuff that we get from Bunnings to about the 5 litres of water. But basically, I would assume there'd be some different amongst the brands, so just whatever brand of oxalic acid you buy, just follow the instructions on the bottle and run with that. And even at that amount, basically, we still sometimes have a bit left behind in the bottom of the crock pot, which just refuses to dissolve. So using any more than that for this stuff probably wouldn't be too much point, I wouldn't think. Acid goo. As you can see, cold water does not like dissolving whatsoever. And one thing I will add is, before you go adding your rocks, you've got to make sure that they're fairly clean and free of any dirt or excess rock around the outside of the iron. So always do your best to make sure they're nice and clean. But once you're sure that they're clean and they're ready to go, everything's all set up, one by one, add your rocks. Now, you don't really want to put too many rocks in at once, probably no more than about sort of half full in the crock pot, unless you're just doing one large rock sample, then full is full. But kind of like cooking a bowl of pasta, you just want plenty of water between the rocks there, just to give it plenty of goo to sort of mesh in with and dissolve into, basically.
That's going to be a pretty one. Already see it.
You can already see the little wispies of iron starting to come up off it as it all dissolves. Good stuff.
Yay! Now we wait.
So all you got to do after this point really is, just as it heats up and you notice the lid starts to steam up, perhaps just give it a little stir here and there as it warms up to help dissolve the acid. But aside from that, once that's all done and it's all warmed up, just leave it be. So it's tomorrow now. You can tell by our different shirts and by the fact that we've had about 10 mil of glorious rain. Makes me happy. We haven't had rain here for like over a month, I reckon, and it feels good. But about 20 or so hours have passed since last video, and there's a couple of things that I probably should have mentioned, or that I wanted to mention previously, and that is basically, how long do you leave them in for, and can you leave them in for too long? The answers to that is pretty much anywhere between a few hours up to a few days, depending on how much iron there is to get rid of. But there is a bit of a limit for how long you can put the stones in there for, and that is because after a few days or so, and even sort of after 24 hours depending on the rock, sometimes the crystals can stain yellow, and it's not a pretty look. It's not the end of the world. You can actually get rid of it again just by soaking it in fresh water, but it's not a risk we like to take, so you're much better off to soak them for a few days or so, and once they've soaked, take them out, neutralize them, which we're going to do soon, and just let them soak in water for a couple of days and then put them back in for another run. So this is where we're at, almost 24 hours in, so about 22 hours there, about. That steam is quite nasty stuff. Irritates your lungs, instantly makes you cough. You don't want to breathe too much of that. This is about where we're at. Now, some of the rocks have come up really nice, others still need a bit longer. So there's some like this little cluster here which has come up absolutely Mickey Mouse. Bit hard to see, but And there's some others that need a bit more love. See, there's still some iron oxide in there, and some crud that kind of looks like clay. And what that is, that's basically rock that was left on there that would have just had iron oxides mixed in with the rock, and all of that would have leached out, but it still doesn't get rid of the other rock that doesn't have any iron in it. So with a specimen like this one, what we'll end up doing is cooling everything down, probably take it out, we'll scrub some of that yucky stuff off it, and then it can go back in with the next batch. But basically what we're going to do now is switch it off, and then we're going to let it cool down, and once it's all nice and cool, we'll pull out whichever rocks we think are done, we'll neutralize them, and then we'll chuck it back on again for probably another 24 hours to work on those other stones. We'll check in soon. So we've taken out everything that we suspect to be done. You can see some of these still have a little bit of black stuff and what have you, and even a little bit of iron oxide there that you can see still in the rock, but that's in cracks and crevices and, you know, more inclusions rather than coatings, so they're probably not going to move. Hello, Mother Nature. Woohoo! But some really, really pretty stuff. Super nice. Some of these smokies come up really, really well. We're going to make some pretty stuff. Have a look at that magic. Oh yeah. So basically any of the black stuff that's left on those now is not iron oxide, and we'll have to come off with a scrubbing brush. And these ones here still have some iron left to focus, still have some iron left in there to come out, so these ones will go back in. We're going to get a few more, that was rough, we're going to get a few more stones from inside, put them in, and next step, neutralize. And by neutralizing, I mean neutralizing the acid. So the oxalic acid, of course, being an acid, has a pH of around 2, which means it's quite nasty shit. So basically, to counteract that, we use bicarb soda, which is an alkaline and a safe alkaline. I think the pH of bicarb's around 8. We're going to use that to neutralize the acid, which is still stuck on these rocks, and make it all safe, and so as we can then rinse things off without doing any harm to either Mother Nature or some steel or the drain or whatever. So step 1, we're going to fill this up with a bit of water, and we're doing it a bit differently this time so as you can get an idea of how to do it. But generally speaking, you can just chuck all your crystals in a bucket of water first, and then, ooh, there's going to be thunder in a minute, and then neutralize them after. So the idea is get everything well and truly covered in water, like so, and then just sprinkle your bicarb. You're going to get a little fizz. This wasn't a very good fizz, to be honest, but basically if you add your bicarb to your water, once it stops fizzing, your liquid is neutralised and your crystals are safe to handle. So we'll leave that for 5 or 10 minutes now, just to do its thing. And once it's all done, we'll give them a rinse off and show you how they come up. So it's been about probably half an hour. Got caught up doing some other things. And you can see all the bubbles have stopped coming up out of the rocks. It's all stopped fizzing. So we're going to take it out, give it a rinse with the hose, and everything's going to be ready to go. Now at this point, everything's pretty much safe. Well, it is safe. So we're just going to basically give this a rinse with the hose to flush away any excess bicarb soda and get us back to straight up water, and at this point this stuff is safe to just be released into Mother Nature. And this is our finished product. Some of them have just come up absolutely stunning. Even the ones that didn't have a lot of iron on them, it just helps to, oh come on, just helps to get that shine happening. It just gets all of the stuff off the surface that shouldn't be there. Some of these pieces are just absolutely stunning. Pretty much what's in there that's left behind will be dirt that we'll scrub out in the end, but have a look at that. Magic stuff. Oh, we've already seen that one. Must really like it. Just beautiful. Get some looking mint. And that is how you use oxalic acid. Cheers for watching, folks. We hope that's been pretty informative. I've got to say, we have definitely never ever had that many individual clips in a video, so this is going to be so much fun to edit, and we really hope that it comes together good. But if you've enjoyed it and you've maybe even learned a thing or two and it might help you along the way, don't forget to give us a little subscribe there and a bit of a like, because that definitely helps us along the way. And if you've got any suggestions, or if you think there's any holes or anything that we've missed, or if you've got any more questions, just hit us up in the comments and we'll see if we can't fill any gaps that we may have left, because who knows how this is all going to come together. But till next time, much love, and we'll see you soon.